fun. Let me give you an honest overview of this 1965 Ford F-150 that's listed for $5,500. This classic pickup has some real character with its turquoise exterior and black interior. With 68,000 miles on the clock, it's got some stories to tell. Let's be upfront about what you're getting here. The good stuff first. It's a running and driving classic with a 352 V8, paired with a 3-speed manual transmission that's been recently rebuilt, and they've got the paperwork to prove it. The truck's rolling on new tires, has good glass all around, and has had a recent oil change. Plus, it's got collector plates, which is a nice bonus. Now, let's talk about the issues, because transparency is important. The engine has a random lifter tick, though the oil pressure is good. The lower column bearing is bad, but they're including an upgraded replacement. The radio and speedometer aren't working. The floor pans have been partially redone, about 80% complete, but the welds aren't finished yet. Interesting bonus, they're offering to throw in a transmission with transfer case and Dana 60 axles for an extra $1,000, which could be valuable for someone planning future upgrades. For $5,500, you're getting a classic work truck that needs some attention, but is still a daily driver. It's not perfect, but it's honest. A project truck that you can actually drive while you work on it. In today's market, finding a running, driving classic F-150 at this price point is getting harder to find. 2. Let me tell you about this interesting 1983 Chevy El Camino Conquista that's up for sale in Clancy, Montana for $11,000. This is a pretty unique find. It's got the rare Conquista package, which adds some special trim and styling elements. With 112,278 miles on the clock, it's been well used but not abused. The car-truck hybrid comes in blue inside and out, and it's being sold as an everyday driver. Under the hood, you've got the original 305 V8 engine paired with a 350 automatic transmission. The current owner's mechanic husband recently installed an Edelbrock carburetor, and they claim it's got impressive power while still managing mid-teens fuel economy when driven carefully. Let's be honest about the condition. The body is showing it's 41 years of age with minor blemishes, and there's one notable cosmetic issue. The hood is in flat black primer, standing out from the blue body. However, they report virtually no rust, which is impressive for a 41-year-old vehicle. The interior is all original and unmodified, with working heat, crucial for Montana, air conditioning, tilt steering, and cruise control. They've added an aftermarket AM/FM CD player for modern convenience. The tires have plenty of life left, and it's riding on period-correct old-school wheels. All glass is intact, and the carpet appears to be original. For $11,000, you're getting a solid running El Camino with some interesting features and regular maintenance from an owner who happens to be a mechanic. It's not a show car, that primer hood makes that clear. But it seems to be a well-maintained, practical classic that's been serving as reliable daily transportation. The sellers are motivated due to needing 4x4 vehicles for winter, so there might be some room for negotiation. Overall, it appears to be an honest example of an increasingly collectible model. 3. Let me tell you about this 1977 Chevy C10 Silverado that's listed for $10,900. This is an interesting blend of classic and modern, with 103,000 miles on the clock. The truck comes in tan exterior paint, and here's what makes it special. It's been modernized with an LS swap, specifically a 5.3L engine paired with a 4L60 transmission. That's a serious upgrade from the original powertrain. Let's be completely honest about the condition. While it's mostly original with its paint and sheet metal, there is some rust on the bottom of the fenders that needs to be addressed. However, the seller notes that the floors and cab corners are solid, which is important because these are typically rust-prone areas on these trucks. The truck's been modified with a 3/5 drop, meaning 3 inches in front, 5 inches in rear, and it's sitting on new 22-inch US mags wheels with fresh tires. Inside, they've modernized it with Dakota digital gauges and a Bluetooth stereo system, complete with kicker speakers and an amp. For $10,900, you're getting a classic C10 with modern reliability thanks to the LS swap. It's not a pristine original, but it's an honest driver that combines vintage style with current technology. The rust issues need to be considered in the price, but the modern drivetrain and upgrades could make this an attractive option for someone wanting a classic truck with modern reliability. The seller is open to trades or partial trades for a K10 or K20, suggesting they might be looking for something with four-wheel drive. 4. Let me give you a straight-up look at this 1985 Chevy S10 that's listed for $20,500. This little white truck with a blue interior has 110,000 miles on the odometer. But here's the important part. It's got a new GM crate engine under the hood. That's actually a significant plus point because you're essentially getting a fresh heart in this old body. Along with the new engine, it's received a new clutch, fuel tank, and fuel pump, all crucial mechanical components. Now let's be honest about what needs attention. The truck needs its exhaust system sorted out, which isn't a small job, and the AC system needs to be hooked up. These are important factors to consider in the total cost of ownership. For $2,500, you're looking at a project truck that's already had some major mechanical work done. The seller's description is pretty bare bones, which leaves some questions about the body condition, interior state, and other potential issues. However, considering the new crate engine alone would cost more than the asking price, this could be a decent deal for someone willing to finish up the remaining work. This is definitely not a turnkey, ready-to-go vehicle, but rather a project that's had some significant mechanical investments already made. It runs and drives, which is a good start, but plan on spending more to get it fully sorted out. 5. Let me tell you about this 1985 Dodge D150 I found on Marketplace. This is an interesting piece of American truck history with a 318 V8 under the hood. It's a 4x4 model in blue, both inside and out, showing about 100,000 miles on the clock. Look, I'll be straight with you. This truck needs some TLC, and the seller's honest about that. They've done some recent work, including a new carburetor and fresh belts, which is good news. The tires are reportedly like new, and it comes with a winch bumper, which is a nice bonus for a work truck or off-roading. At $3,500, or best offer, you're looking at a project truck that at least runs and drives. The seller hasn't owned it long, which might raise some eyebrows, but they're upfront about it needing additional work. These old Dodge trucks are known for being pretty sturdy, and the 318 V8 is a reliable engine when maintained properly. For someone who's handy with tools and looking for a classic 4x4 project, this could be worth checking out. Just go in knowing you'll need to invest some time and money to get it into better shape. The price seems fair for what it is. Not a cream puff, but a running and driving vintage 4x4 with some recent maintenance done. 6. Let me tell you about this classic 1968 Chevy C10 pickup I spotted on Marketplace. At $7,500, we're looking at a piece of American automotive history that's showing 100,000 miles on the clock, dressed in red inside and out. These 67-72 Chevy trucks, often called the Action Line series, are some of the most sought-after classic pickups out there. Unfortunately, the seller hasn't provided much detail about the truck's condition, mechanical state, or any restoration work that might have been done, which is a bit concerning when looking at a 55-year-old vehicle. Without more information about the engine condition, transmission health, or rust situation, it's hard to make a complete assessment. The price point of $7,500 sits in an interesting spot. It's not cheap enough to be a pure project truck, but not expensive enough to suggest it's fully restored. For reference, these trucks in show condition can fetch $30,000+ers, while rough project trucks might go for $3,000, $4,000. If you're interested, you'll definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection. Check for rust in the usual spots like the cab corners, rocker panels, and bed floor. Also, verify if its numbers matching and what engine it's running. These trucks originally came with several engine options, from a straight 6 to various V8s. Being honest here, without more details from the seller, this could either be a decent deal or a money pit waiting to happen. Always remember, when dealing with classic vehicles, what you can't see in the photos or what isn't mentioned in the description could end up being the most expensive part of the purchase. 7. Let's talk about this 1970 Chevy C10 I found on Marketplace. I really appreciate the seller's honesty here. They're not trying to hide anything about this classic pickup. Listed at $6,000, this orange C10 is being presented exactly as it is. A working truck with character, and yes, some battle scars. The seller's straightforward about the truck having the typical rust these old Chevys are known for, plus some dents and dings all around. But here's the good stuff. It's got a rebuilt motor, new motor mounts, new shocks, and fresh bumpers. Most importantly, they say it's dependable and starts every time, even mentioning they've driven it all over the state. For context, these 6772 C10s are highly desirable classics, but this one's clearly not a show truck, and that's okay. It's positioned as either a reliable farm truck or a running project, which is exactly what it appears to be. The price point makes sense for a running, driving classic with some recent mechanical work, even with its cosmetic issues. If you're looking for a classic truck you can actually use while gradually improving it, this could be worth checking out. Just go into it knowing you'll be dealing with rust repair if you ever want to make it pretty. But hey, sometimes the best classics are the ones you can drive without worrying about every little scratch, right? Remember, $6,000 for a running, driving classic C10 with a rebuilt motor isn't bad in today's market, especially if it's as reliable as claimed. Just be sure to check the extent of that rust before making a decision. 8. Let me tell you about this 1972 Chevy C20 pickup that's caught my attention on Marketplace. I really appreciate how brutally honest the seller is being about this one. Listed at $4,800, this yellow beast is packing some serious muscle with a 454 big block V8, though it's not the original engine. The seller says it came from a city truck with low miles, and they've added some nice performance upgrades, MSD distributor, Holley high-rise intake, and a Holley carb. It's got a solid turbo 400 transmission too, which is known for being bulletproof. Now, let's be real here. This truck needs work, and the seller isn't sugarcoating it. They straight up tell us it hasn't been on the road for a long time and has rust in all the places these trucks rust out. We're talking rocker panels, cab corners, bed, cab, and doors. It also needs a complete exhaust system. The good news? It's got some nice features like bucket seats, factory tack, AC cab, condition unknown, and aluminum wheels. At $4,800, you're basically buying a project truck with a potent powertrain. The 454 and 400 combo alone could justify a good chunk of that price if they're in good shape. But don't kid yourself. This is going to need significant bodywork and investment to get back on the road properly. If you're handy with a welder and looking for a project with some serious potential muscle, this could be worth checking out. Just go in knowing you're buying a project, not a daily driver. And hey, at least with this ad, you know exactly what you're getting into. No surprises here. 9. Let me tell you about this 1981 Chevy C10 short bed I found on Marketplace. This is an interesting square body with a pretty straightforward story. Listed at $12,500, we're looking at what appears to be an honest, maintained driver with the classic SBC 350 TH350 automatic combo, one of the most reliable powertrains Chevy ever made. The seller's being upfront about the paint condition, admitting it's not great but looks decent from 10 feet. Gotta appreciate that honesty. It's showing 100K miles and comes in green inside and out. What's impressive here is the list of recent maintenance: new tires, window and door seals, rebuilt carb, fresh shocks, cab mounts, plus new plugs, wires, air filter, battery, and fuel filter. That's a solid amount of preventative maintenance that shows someone's been caring for this truck properly. Now let's talk about that $12,500 price tag. Being completely honest, it's sitting on the higher end for a non-restored square body with average paint. However, these trucks have been climbing in value, and finding one that's been maintained as a daily driver, rather than modified or neglected, is getting harder. The fact that it's a factory no AC truck might actually appeal to some purists, and being an original old man's truck that's still being daily driven speaks to its reliability. Still, you might have some negotiating room on the price, especially considering the paint condition. If you're looking for a solid, usable square body C10 that you can drive while gradually improving, this could be worth checking out. just maybe not at full asking price. Remember, these trucks are getting harder to find in original maintained condition, even if they're not perfect showpieces. 10. Let me tell you about this 1985 Chevy Silverado on Marketplace, but I've got to be honest. The seller's description is extremely sparse, which is concerning for a $15,000 asking price. The truck shows 40,000 miles, which either means the odometer has rolled over or it's incredibly low mileage for a 38-year-old vehicle. It's dressed in blue inside and out, and the seller claims it's been their daily driver for the past 4 years, which at least suggests it's mechanically sound enough for regular use. But here's where I need to be straight with you. $15,000 is a serious asking price for a 1985 Silverado, and the seller provides almost no information to justify it. We don't know about the engine, transmission condition, rust situation, modifications, or any restoration work that might have been done. For this kind of money, you'd expect a detailed description of the truck's condition and history. While square-body Chevys 1973-1987 have been rising in value and becoming quite collectible, this price point would typically suggest either a very well-preserved example or one that's had significant restoration work. Without more information, it's impossible to say if this is a fair price or overly optimistic. If you're interested in this truck, you'd definitely want to see it in person and ask a lot of questions before considering that $15,000 price tag, even with the OBO, or best offer option. The lack of details in the listing is a red flag at this price point. To read 11. Let me tell you about this interesting 1978 Ford F-150 4x4 I found on Marketplace. This isn't your average old Ford. It's got some serious upgrades that make it stand out. Listed at $8,000, this red beast is running a 351 ln engine paired with a granny gear 4-speed manual transmission. What's really impressive are the heavy-duty Dana 60 front and Dana 70 rear axles. That's serious hardware typically found on larger trucks, suggesting this was built for some serious work or off-roading. It's sitting on massive 42 Pitbull rocker tires mounted on 17 stock wheels and comes with custom tube bumpers front and rear, plus a winch. The seller's being refreshingly honest here. They admit it's not in perfect shape, but confirm all glass, chrome, and body panels are present. They daily drove it for years, but say it needs some attention to be a daily driver again. That's the kind of straightforward talk I appreciate in a listing. Some cool extras include a custom audio setup with 410 speakers behind the seat. Being a dent-side F-150, the nickname for this generation, these trucks have been gaining popularity among collectors and enthusiasts. At $8,000, considering the heavy-duty axles, custom bumpers, winch, and the fact it's a running, driving short bed 4x4 from this desirable generation, the price seems reasonable if you're looking for a project that's already got some serious upgrades. Just know you'll need to invest some time and probably money to get it back to daily driver status, as the seller suggests. This could be a great opportunity for someone who appreciates these old Fords and wants something with some serious off-road potential. Just make sure to check the usual rust spots and mechanical components before pulling the trigger. 12. We're taking a look at a 1965 Ford F-150 that's currently up for sale at a price of $3,000. Now, I want to be completely honest with you about the condition of this truck. Based on the seller's description, it's clear that this F-150 is a project vehicle that will require some work to get it back on the road. The seller mentions that the original 6-cylinder motor is ready to be put back in, but they also have a 1970 302 motor and transmission that comes with the truck. The 302 motor is said to run well, which is a positive sign. However, it's important to note that the truck is not currently in driving condition, and it will need some mechanical attention before it's roadworthy. On the bright side, the truck comes with a clean title in hand, so there shouldn't be any issues with ownership or paperwork. The exterior and interior of the truck are both listed as green, which could be a cool, classic color combo if the paint is in decent shape. The seller seems to be pretty upfront about the condition of the truck, admitting that they don't have the time to fix it up themselves. This honesty is appreciated, as it gives potential buyers a clear idea of what they're getting into. In summary, this 1965 Ford F-150 is a project truck that could be a great opportunity for someone with the time, skills, and resources to bring it back to life. The $3,000 price tag seems reasonable considering the work that needs to be done, but as always, it's crucial to inspect the vehicle in person and gather as much information as possible before making a purchase. 13. We're diving into the details of a 1984 Chevrolet C30 that's currently listed for sale at a price of $15,000. Now, let's take a closer look at what this classic truck has to offer. First off, the seller mentions that this C30 has been given a rotisserie restoration, which is a thorough and comprehensive way to restore a vehicle. This process involves removing the body from the frame and rotating it to allow for easier access to all areas of the truck during the restoration process. It's a significant undertaking and shows that the seller has put a lot of effort into bringing this truck back to its former glory. Under the hood, you'll find a newly installed 454 big block Chevrolet BBC engine that has less than 100 miles on it. This powerful engine is paired with an automatic transmission, making it a great choice for those who prefer a more laid-back driving experience. The low mileage on the engine is a definite plus, as it indicates that it has plenty of life left in it. The exterior of the truck is finished in a clean white paint job, while the interior boasts a blue color scheme. The seller states that the truck is in very good condition, which is evident from the details provided about the restoration process. One notable aspect of this C30 is that it's a dually, meaning it has 4 rear wheels instead of the standard 2. This setup is designed to provide extra stability and support when towing heavy loads, making it an ideal choice for those who need a truck with serious hauling capabilities. The body of the truck has 67,000 miles on it, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. This suggests that the truck has been well maintained throughout its life and has not been subjected to excessive wear and tear. Overall, this 1984 Chevrolet C30 presents itself as a well-restored and powerful classic truck. The rotisserie restoration, new 454 BBC engine, and low mileage on the body all contribute to its appeal. However, it's important to keep in mind that the $15,000 asking price is on the higher end for a truck of this age, so potential buyers should carefully consider their budget and the value this specific truck brings to the table. 14. We're taking a closer look at a 1978 Ford F-150 that's up for grabs at a price of $7,000. This classic truck seems to have a lot of character, so let's dive into the details provided by the seller. First things first, the seller mentions that this F-150 is in great daily driver condition. That's always a positive sign when you're looking for a vehicle that you can rely on for your everyday needs. However, it's important to note that the seller does acknowledge some small rust spots on the body. While they claim that these rust spots don't affect the truck's drivability, it's still something to keep in mind and thoroughly inspect when viewing the vehicle in person. Under the hood, you'll find a 306-cylinder engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. This combination is known for its reliability and can be a lot of fun to drive, especially around town. The seller even mentions that the truck has never given them any problems during their ownership, which is a testament to its dependability. The exterior of the truck is finished in a classic blue color, which is nicely complemented by a matching blue interior. The mileage is listed at 77,000, which is relatively low for a truck of this age. This suggests that the vehicle has been well maintained and not subjected to excessive wear and tear over the years. One important aspect to consider is that the seller mentions the truck is paid off, which means you won't have to worry about any outstanding financial obligations if you decide to purchase it. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $7,000 for this 1978 Ford F-150, which they say is pretty firm. However, they do mention that they might be willing to negotiate a little bit because they need to sell the truck. This leaves some room for potential buyers to work out a deal that both parties are happy with. The seller seems to be quite upfront about the condition of the truck, acknowledging its small rust spots while still emphasizing its daily driver capabilities. They also encourage potential buyers to ask any real questions they may have, showing a willingness to be transparent and communicative throughout the selling process. 15. We're checking out this interesting 1977 Chevy El Camino, listed for $9,800 on Marketplace. Let me give you the honest scoop on this unique car-truck hybrid. This is a one-owner El Camino from Virginia that's been sitting in storage on jack stands since 2010, which honestly makes me both excited and cautious. The good news is it's equipped with the reliable 350 V8 engine and automatic transmission, and the seller claims it runs and drives. What really catches my attention is the claim of no rust issues ever. That's pretty remarkable for a 46-year-old vehicle, likely thanks to its Virginia origins and indoor storage. The tan exterior paired with the burgundy interior is a classic 70s combination. And with only 52,000 miles on the clock, it's surprisingly low mileage for its age. It comes with factory AC, which is a nice bonus. However, let's be realistic. Any vehicle that's been sitting for 13 years will need some attention, particularly to rubber components, fluids, and the fuel system. At $9,800, it's not exactly cheap, but if the no-rust claim holds true and the mechanical components are as solid as described, it could be a worthwhile investment for someone looking for a classic El Camino. Just make sure to get a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger, as storage vehicles often hide surprises. 16. Let's check out this 1985 Chevy K10 pickup that's listed for $9,800 on Marketplace. I'm going to be completely straight with you about this one. The seller's being upfront about the rust issues, which is something we always appreciate in the used truck market. We're looking at a K10 with a built 350 V8 engine and automatic transmission, painted in black with a matching black interior. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. There's rust in the bed and front fenders, which is pretty typical for these old Chevys. However, the seller notes that the important structural parts like the floor, rockers, and cab corners are solid, which is actually a big plus, because these are usually the first places to go on these trucks. With only 10,000 miles shown, I'm guessing this is either after the odometer rolled over or since the engine rebuild. Speaking of the engine, it's got a mild build on the 350, which typically means it's got some performance upgrades but nothing too crazy. The seller says it runs good, which is promising. At $9,800, you're paying for a classic K10 with some muscle under the hood, but you'll need to factor in some body work if you want to address those rust issues. These trucks have a strong following and good bones for a project, but be sure to inspect those solid areas yourself before making a decision. It's not a perfect truck, but it could be a solid starting point for someone looking to own a piece of classic American truck history. 17. We're looking at a pretty sweet 1965 Ford Econoline truck that's popped up on Marketplace for $15,000. Let me tell you, these early Econolines are becoming increasingly rare, especially in good condition like this one appears to be. The seller's got this black beauty powered by a 302 V8 engine, which is actually a nice upgrade from the original smaller engines these typically came with. With 68,000 miles showing, it's lived a relatively modest life for a vehicle pushing 60 years old. What's really catching my attention here is the seller's claim about the body being in excellent condition. That's huge for these old vans, as they were notorious for rust issues. They're also being upfront about what works and what doesn't. It's got good heat, but no AC, which is pretty standard for these classics. The automatic transmission and new-like tires are definitely plus points. At $15,000, you're looking at a fair ask for a well-maintained piece of Ford history, especially considering the current market for vintage vehicles. These forward control designs are unique and definitely turn heads at car shows. The 302 V8 means it's got enough power to keep up with modern traffic, and being described as very fun to drive is always a good sign. Just remember, while it might be in great shape, you're still dealing with a nearly 60-year-old vehicle, so some regular maintenance should be expected. But if you're in the market for a classic commercial vehicle with style, this clean title Econoline seems like it could be a solid choice. 18. Let's talk about this 1984 Chevy 3500 that's listed for $5,000 on Marketplace. And I'm going to be completely honest with you about what we're looking at here. This is definitely a project truck, and the seller is being upfront about that fact, which I appreciate. The truck comes with a manual transmission and wears a white exterior with a blue interior. but let's get real about its condition. The seller admits it needs work to run perfectly, and there's a red flag with the unknown mileage due to a non-working odometer. Though the listing shows 100,000 miles, take that with a grain of salt. While they mention it has several new parts, they don't specify what these parts are, which would be important information for any potential buyer. At $5,000 OBO, or best offer, you're looking at a project that will need additional investment. The good news is it does run and drive, which is a starting point, but don't expect to hop in and use it as a daily driver right away. These old 3500s are workhorses when properly maintained, but this one clearly needs some TLC. If you're mechanically inclined and looking for a project truck with potential, this might be worth checking out. Just make sure to thoroughly inspect it and factor in the cost of repairs when considering that $5,000 asking price. Remember, with project vehicles, the purchase price is often just the beginning of your investment. 19. We're checking out a really interesting piece of automotive history. A 1952 Dodge D100 pickup listed for $4,000 on Marketplace. Let me be straight with you about this classic. The seller is upfront about this being a project truck, yes, in all caps. And at 70 years old, that's exactly what you should expect. But here's where it gets interesting. The seller claims the body and frame are rust-free, which is pretty remarkable for a truck of this age. The only rust mentioned is a small spot on the tailgate, which they suggest could be fixed or simply removed. The truck wears a burgundy exterior, comes with a manual transmission, which would be original for the era, and surprisingly has a clean title. While the seller claims no significant damage or problems, remember, we're talking about a 70-year-old project vehicle here. It's going to need work. That's just the reality. At $4,000, you're buying a piece of post-war American truck history that could be a fantastic restoration project. These early D100s are becoming increasingly rare, especially with solid bodies and frames. However, be prepared for a serious project. You'll likely need to address mechanical systems, interior work, and probably some electrical issues. This isn't a truck you're going to drive home and use right away, but for someone looking to restore a classic piece of Dodge history, it could be a solid starting point. Just make sure to thoroughly inspect that claimed rust-free body and frame before making a deal, as that's crucial to the truck's value and restoration potential. 20. Let's check out this 1976 Chevy Cheyenne 3x4-ton 4x4 that's listed for $5,500 on Marketplace, and I'm going to give you the straight facts about what we're looking at here. This is a two-owner truck with 86,000 actual miles, which is pretty impressive, but there's a big catch. It currently doesn't run. The engine went out about 6 years ago when the original owner last drove it, and while it's included, it needs either a rebuild or replacement. Now, let's talk about the good stuff. The transmission has fresh seals, the wiring harness is untouched, which is actually a big deal for these old trucks, and it comes with a recently serviced 4-core radiator and a new battery. The tires are reportedly in great shape and hold air, which is always a plus. However, let's be honest about the issues. The rockers are a little crusty, meaning rust, and the front windshield is cracked. But the seller claims the rest of the body is super solid, and they're including service records and documentation, which adds credibility to the truck's history. At $5,500, you're looking at a project truck that has good bones but needs significant work, primarily a functioning engine. The price might seem reasonable for a solid 76 Cheyenne 4x4, especially with documented history and original miles, but remember, you'll need to factor in the cost of an engine rebuild or replacement. If you're mechanically inclined and looking for a classic Chevy project with potential, this could be worth checking out. Just make sure to thoroughly inspect those crusty rockers and verify the overall condition before making a deal. And remember, the seller's firm on no trades.